And here is the exponents of grammatical number in Kamya.
Hello. Okay, so today I'm going to be talking to you about how grammatical number is expressed in my language Kamya. I'll show you that nouns and verbs have different patterns of number marking, that plurality is not obligatorily marked on nouns, and so nouns can show a mismatch between semantic and morphological number, whereas verbs have to agree in number with their subject, but they agree with the semantic rather than morphological number. So first, a little bit on the language. It began in 2018, set vaguely in modern-day southeastern Europe, and is meant to be a more or less naturalistic language. And I have tried to avoid overloading it with morphology and excess grammatical features, but tried to keep it interesting nonetheless. Now a quick typological overview. So essentially nominative accusative, mainly suffixing, basic word order is SVO. In noun phrases, the noun is almost always the last thing in the phrase. No adpositions, no grammatical gender, 8 cases, and now I'll talk to you about number. So first, nouns. So nouns have a morphological distinction between general and plural. So general nouns can refer to either semantic singulars or semantic plurals, whereas morphological plurals can only ever refer to semantic plurals. And the unmarked form of the noun is general in number, whereas the plural is marked by a suffix. So if you have, for example, the noun kudi, this can mean either book or books, but the plural form kudida can only ever mean books. Same for vorha, bull or bulls, vorhada, bulls, and chulu can mean child or children, whereas chuluda can only ever mean children. Now, this plural marking is not allowed with a quantifier or cardinal numeral. So in a phrase like gara kudi, a lot of books, you can't have gara kudida. Same with sheda vorha. For a few bulls, you can't have sheda vorhada. And 3 children has to be is chulu rather than is chuluda. Now, the only exception to this are those small number of nouns that are only ever found with overt plural marking in any case. So, for example, gara laida, a lot of money, can't be gara lai. Ishik amda, too many people, can't be ishik and rawiz mushta, some arms, can't be rawiz mush, and you can't have lai, or mush on their own. Anyway, okay, so as these examples show you, the nominal plural marker, the regular plural marker for nouns, has one of 3 forms, so da, ta, or ada. So after vowels, you get da, so wacha, wachara, and also after sonorants, so tom, tomda. Then with certain monosyllabic words that end in certain voiceless consonants, you get ta, so vash, vashta. Compare this with, for example, shidish, which is shidishata in the plural rather than shidishta. And elsewhere you get ada, so big, bigada, and imic, which underlyingly ends in a consonant cluster, so imk is imkada in the plural. Then there is also a irregular plural suffix, which is an old dual suffix, which is no longer a dual and only a plural. But considering its origin, as you might expect, is mainly found with body parts that tend to come in pairs. So kun is eye or eyes, kunchi in the plural, poch, leg, pochuchi, die, lungs, dieci. And then also, for example, anka is a sleeve or trouser leg and is ankachi in the plural. And then there's a few more kind of wrinkles in the system. So, for example, the noun mar, person, has the suppletive plural amda. And then the noun gara, man or men, doesn't take the regular plural suffix, but has the plural form kadanya instead. And then we have cases like stach, which is a count noun that can mean either onion or onions, which coexist alongside the derived mass noun stachania. And then there are some cases where this derivation goes in the opposite direction. So the basic noun lirit is peas as a mass noun, and then there's also the derived count noun lirteska, which is pea or peas. Okay, and now a little bit more on one of the suffixes we've just seen, which is anya. So this is the collective suffix or mass noun suffix, and when it's used with referents that have that are animate, it can be treated either as semantically singular or plural. So if we take, for example, the noun mugu, pig or pigs, so there is the irregular plural form mugu, regular plural form muguda, and this also coexists alongside muganya, which is either swine or pigs, like a group of pigs, a collective of pigs, but it can also mean pork, so the meat of a pig. And when it refers to the living animal, this can be treated either as singular or plural, but it can only ever be treated as singular when referring to the meat. And the same goes for example, the small number of nouns derived from verbs using the suffix. So dhuri is to watch, and dhuranya is audience, and this can either be treated as singular or plural, since audiences are generally animate. Though note you can't then add the plural suffix on top of the collective suffix, so a form like dhuranyada would not be licit. Okay, and then more for completion's sake than anything else, personal pronouns are different from regular nouns in that there is kind of suppletive number marking or suppletion for number throughout the paradigm, as you can see here. Then a couple of notes on extra number related things, which is that nouns also have a distributive plural marking mechanism, and this just marks a number of nouns distributed in space or time in some way. And this is marked by whole word reduplication. So if I said a sentence like Jim belit kudis na timtisha, this would mean I found books in the room, but the books were kind of strewn about the room. And then there's also an associative plural, which marks a plurality of nouns as constituting some sort of coherent group or set. And in Kamya, this is kind of broader than is usually seen in other languages, and is formed by postposed partial reduplication. So if we have something like Johan, meaning John, then Johan Varuhan would be John and like his mates. And then Bata, parents, Bata Varata is kind of just like senior family relatives. Then we have other examples here, Sheriff Vareref, Goz Varoz, Ruz Varuz. Okay, now onto verbs. So verbs must agree with their subject in number, but they agree with semantic rather than morphological number. And the singular form of verb is unmarked, whereas the plural form takes a suffix. So in the sentence where we have woman intended to be singular, we don't have any marking on the verb, so nachera akit nemlas. Whereas when we have when woman is semantically plural, then we get plural marking on the verb, nachera akritit nemlas. But you can also have marking on both the noun and both on the subject and the verb, as in the last example, nachera akritit nemlas. So as they show, the suffixes can be realized as ar and also just r. So you find ar after, for example, consonants, so kavuk, kavukar, but also after high vowels. So hagi, hagiar, zumu, zumuar, and then you get r everywhere else. So chehe, cheher, duvo, duvor, zaija, zaijar, for example. And on top of this, there are certain verbs that also have some sort of stem mutation, or in rare cases, suppletion going on. So zav, zizar for heard, dit, dichar, own, bele, bir for be able to, urul, rular for now, imin, imar, kill, him, har, go or come, and im, liver for carry. And now kind of bringing it all together at the clause level. So because number is recoverable from the verb, with subjects, it's usually not marked on subjects. So if I say things like na sosa hira angluchata, then you know because of the plural marking suffix that I'm talking about children, not child. Same with the sentence na zurvar poshinarjuz, which has plural marking on the verb. So again, you know there's more than one banana involved. But even though number is marked on the verb in agreement with subjects only, number can still be left unmarked on non-subjects. So the indefinite article strongly implies a singular rather than plural reading. So in a sentence like Megi hardit she jazz luches, we bought a chair. This means that in the corresponding sentence, Megi hardit jazz luches, where there is no indefinite article, that you can easily infer that I'm probably talking about multiple chairs rather than a single chair. And so you don't necessarily need to explicitly mark the plural on the noun chair. That said, it is also possible to use the indefinite article with count nouns as a kind of plural partitive, though this is usually found with overt plural marking on the verb, on the noun. So, for example, a sentence like Nazashka bukichi keris, the bear caught would normally be interpreted as meaning the bear caught a fish, though given sufficient context, it could mean perhaps the bear caught some fish. But you're more likely to hear Nazashka bukichi keridas with plural marking on the noun. Then, with the indefinite article, if there's no number marking, number is going to be ambiguous for non-subjects, though it's very often inferable from context to real-world knowledge. So in a sentence like na mal na shulas na gushezin or jedis na kudis na gitozori, then you're more than likely going to be able to work out what number is intended in each case according to the context in which the sentence is used. Then with body parts that naturally occur in multiples or especially pairs, then the definite article is usually going to imply that there's more than one. So in the sentence, "Jeshchuto vanat nakawas," then it's more than likely that I'm referring to hands plural, because usually when we wash our hands, we wash both hands, not necessarily just one of them. But this isn't always the case necessarily. So if I said "Recha jesh na terikawas," this could mean either give me your hand or give me your hands. And if I wanted to specify, I could very well add the plural marker to hand to specify that I meant more than one. Okay. So in any case, overt plural marking is usually somewhat uncommon on nouns. And when it is used, it's for reasons of focus or disambiguation. So in this case, if you really wanted to stress that there was that there had been several letters in the box, you could add it onto letters. So in the buka zahat napito das nastinazin. Or if you really wanted to stress, hammer home that you had only received one stamp when you actually wanted several, then you could use plural marker on stamp. So dzięciza sheldas vosa joleshet shinko sir shelas, where you have overt plural marking. Then finally, there are cases where you can find unmarked or unmodified nouns, count nouns most of the point, where you also have no marking on the verb. So, for example, in generic sentences like this one, so rodezuru rechi alas, crocodiles lay eggs, or this one, kez ak perchas anigela agad, dogs eat meat but horses don't. And as you can see, there's no plural marking anywhere in sight, and no articles either, and these are just kind of generic sentences. Okay, so to sum up, I've shown you how grammatical number is expressed in Kamya, that nouns have a morphological distinction between general and plural number, but still show a semantic distinction between singular and plural, and that this ties in with the verbs in the verbs have to agree with the semantic number of subjects rather than the morphological number. And Also, the information is recoverable from adnominal modifiers, as well as nouns and verbs. Or failing that, just context or real world knowledge will do the job. And thank you for listening.
All right. Sorry, everyone, for the not great volume at the first of that, but I think we got most of it. Keras, thank you for pre-recording, so we made sure we got everything right. You've sparked a good conversation on the YouTube channel there that people are talking about different things. But Frederick Baer asked, "What is the supposed etymology of amda, and how does it come to supplete the original plural of mar?"
There's not really an exciting story for that, to be honest. It's just that there happen to be two words for person in the proto-language, and that one was used, for whatever reason, more in the plural originally, and then that kind of stuck around as the plural form, and then the plural form of mar just fell out of use because of competition, basically. Nothing more exciting than that.
Fair enough. Yoshimitsu asked, "I assume if the word for audience, as shown, cannot take a plural, there would be a different word or construction to convey the meaning of separate audiences?"
I mean, I don't think there would necessarily be a dedicated way to say that, but there's probably a couple of different ways you could. One would be to use the distributive, which I mentioned in the talk. And then the other one would be to just say that, so you could use the indefinite article with the word audience and then specify the number elsewhere. So if you were talking about, a specific number of audiences for some reason, you could say, for example, there was an audience in the 3 rooms, and then that there's 3 audiences because there's one in each room, if that makes sense.
Yes, well, it does to me. Scout Sojak is asking, is there a singular place online where one can access the documentation to learn more about Kamya?
Yeah, you have to hack into my Dropbox account. No, not yet. I will, in time, hopefully post more of this online, but I just happen to not have done so yet. So I suppose, yeah.
Eventually. Yeah, there's a lot of positive comments. I love all this thinking about context and pragmatics, really the lifeblood of a language. People are loving how much detail and thought were put into the various aspects of your language. And Sojak said, "I found the phonoaesthetics as well as the morphological aesthetics of this language to be very satisfying."
Well, that's nice to hear.